morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Movement Radio. I am Chip Hazard. Unfortunately, as you can tell, neither Roger nor Talon are here today. They had some stuff they had to take care of, but I do have a special guest, and today's guest is someone that you're definitely gonna want to keep an eye on. He's a writer, colorist, and a mastermind behind a brand new comic coming out called Hellstones. Um, let's all give a big shout out to the founder of Pigmacast Studio, Frank Walk. Frank, how are you today?
How you doing? Great, Chip. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Man,
And thanks for the intro. That's probably the best intro I've ever had.
I try to do a little, little pizzazz here or there. But man, I want to jump right into this, and I want to kick off with the origin story. How did Hellstones come to life?
Yeah, man. It was a bit of a long journey, to be honest. I Back in 2015, I was working a desk job, and I had a pretty slow day, pretty boring. And just as an exercise, I was like, let's just do a little creative writing or whatever. I've always been a creative person. But at this point in time, I was like, yeah, let's just do some writing. And I was like, so if I was to create a character, what kind of character would I create? And I was like, let's do like a strong female lead character. And I was like, okay, well, what does that look like to me? What am I tired of seeing? What would be different? So I was like, just make her like a tomboy, an everyday kind of girl. You know, the big chest and tight clothing. It has its place in the world, but I was like, nah, I just want like this could be anybody. So I
Right.
so I started with that character, and from there I was like, okay, so this is a pretty cool character. I had this idea in my head that she's kind of a badass. Maybe doesn't take a lot of guff, and I just started building, and I came up with just a little one page concept story that ended up being Hellstones, and I didn't give it another thought. I was like, oh, that was really fun. And then like a year later, I came back to it, and I was like, this was really cool. And I ran it by a buddy of mine who went to school for script writing, and he was like, you know, if you're not sure what to do with something, you're not sure if you like it or not, sit on it, forget about it, and if you find yourself coming back to it, then deal with it then. Like you have something.
Right.
So that's kind of what I did. And then like over the years, like I'd oh yeah, I should open that old email that I sent to myself, and I'd crack open the Word doc and I'd be like, oh yeah, I still like this. This is really cool. And over time, I just slowly started adding to it. And then in 2019, I started going down this path of being a colorist, and that introduced me to comic book creation. And um, then I sat down one day and I was like, oh, I should revisit that Hellstones thing that I just kind of been picking at over the last like decade. And I sat down one day and I was like, you know what? I've culminated all of these different skill sets. I could turn this into a comic book. And I sat down and I just started writing. And I wrote for forever. Like I suffer from ADHD. So when I hyper focus in, like I'm locked. I
Right.
just typed away what seemed like forever. And I ended up with a couple hundred pages. And I was like, okay, now I've got something. Clearly, I have something to say. So now let's start to break it down and see what it would look like as a story. And I put in the story, in the writing, I kind of just tried to be real. Like I
Right.
wanted I
Right.
wanted the character to feel real. I wanted the consequences to feel real. People make mistakes, and I want that to be part of it. And I got to include my own narratives on, maybe how I view, corporate greed or cults and organized religion, as well as this Sam character trying to kind of fight through it all and do what she believes is right according to her moral compass.
Right. Right. That's awesome. So in the promotional material that you sent me,
Mhm.
you kind of mentioned this idea that the Hellstones are fragments of Lucifer's wings. So that's a
Yeah.
wild and brilliant idea. Where'd
Yeah.
that concept come from?
That came from the initial exercise. At the time, I've always been a huge Kevin Smith fan, and I think I just recently rewatched Dogma or something. So I just
Such a
kind
great
of,
movie.
it's so good, so good, and but I just kind of had that rolling in the back of my head, and I think that's why it started off that way, of just the religion thing, and I was like, oh, okay, so if they were to have, these, if someone was to have an item to grant them power, what would it be? Okay, a stone is cool because that can be kind of anything. It's kind of a generic object, but what would make it different? And then that's when I kind of started putting pieces together. Um, I always had this tagline in the back of my head of "The road to hell is paved with good intentions," and that all just kind of, it just kind of all piled in, and yeah, I didn't really pull the concept from anywhere in specific. I just wanted it to be unique and different, something I'd never heard of before.
Right.
It wasn't like some gift bestowed on somebody. There's not a mutation. They're not an alien race. They're these just tangible objects. And yeah, I think I answered your question.
You did. Now you mentioned like Kevin Smith and Dogma, which kind
Yeah.
of leads into the next question of, were there any particular, aside from Kevin Smith and Dogma, any particular creators, books, or films that may have planted a seed here or there for this story?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're all products of our environment. I mean, some big things for me is like I've always liked like the grittiness of Spawn, and I like things that are like cerebral or psychological, like the Crow. I like things
Hmm.
like Transmetropolitan. Um, I like all the supernatural stuff like Sandman. So for me, it was like I needed to be gritty. I needed to feel adult, uh, and those were kind of the big influences, really.
Right. Okay. That's awesome. I mean, you mentioned some really good books there: Sandman, Crow, Spawn. All some of my personal favorites.
Yeah,
Um, but there's a lot of depth to this book. A lot of depth. You talk about corruption, cults, relics, war. So what came first? The world, the characters, or the course concept of the stones?
I would say the characters came first, and then definitely the core concept of the stones. Because once I had that main character, that Sam character, I was like, okay, so she's got to have some bad guys. She's got to have some conflict. What would that be? And that's where I came up with the antagonist of the story. And then I was like, okay, so what's the conflict? What's the problem? And that's where the Hellstones came from, and everything just kind of pieced together from there.
Awesome, awesome. So Sam, the main character
Yeah.
in your story, she's such a grounded and gritty protagonist. What does she represent to you as a character?
Yeah, I think she represents not only myself, but who I'd like to think that most people are. Most people are just good people. And what happens when a good person is posed an impossible situation? And that's who Sam is. Sam is just a regular person that just is met with conflict and trying to do the right thing. And of course, she has powers because of these hellstones, so it's a little bit different. But
Right.
but how much of yourself are you willing to sacrifice in the name of the greater good? And how much of yourself are you willing to lose as far as your morals and your values as well?
Awesome, awesome. Um, we keep mentioning Hellstones. This is the name of the book.
Mhm.
And in the material you sent me, you suggested that each Hellstone grants a unique power,
Yeah.
right? So how did you come up with these abilities and decide what kind of toll that they take on a person?
So for me, I had to think about the powers of the stones in a way that reflected maybe stereotypically some of the powers that Satan himself has possessed throughout pop culture and
Hmm.
stuff like that. And that's where I started. And I just kind of broke down those individual components. You know, Lucifer, Satan, he should be superhumanly strong. So why not have a hellstone that grants strength? You know, he's angelic. Maybe he flies. Why not have one that grants flight, and so on. So each stone is a representation or a piece of Lucifer, especially given that they came from him.
Yeah. Dude, I love that concept. I mean, just the idea that you're using this like very like predominantly evil character uh to actually do some kind of good here or there, maybe. Um, but you've got two fascinating enemy factions in this story. You've got a megacorp and a cult, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, how do you approach writing villains that feels real and not just evil for evil's sake?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when I think about somebody like Jeff Bezos or an Elon Musk or something like that, uh, I'd like to think that they didn't start off as greedy, hungry billionaires. They were young once, they were people once, and somewhere along the way, they lost their way or their values changed. And it wasn't overnight. It was a slow change. So maybe they didn't realize that they were becoming who they were becoming. So just trying to maintain that groundedness for each of the protagonists, I think, is important. I mean, they believe that what they're doing is the right thing. I mean, Lex Luthor is a great example of a villain that kind of fits that mold.
Hmm. Yes, very, very, very much so. Um, so I want to talk a little bit about the craft and the creative process.
Yeah.
So you're not only the writer, you're also handling the coloring, the lettering, the layout. That's a lot, right?
So much.
So what is it like wearing all of those hats?
uh, it's exhausting, but it's so satisfying. So satisfying. You know, doing commission work for a number of years and working on other books for other people or working for another indie publisher and stuff. I get to do my thing. I get to hone my craft. I get to make my art. I get to be a colorist, which is great. But then you got to take editorial feedback. You got to make edits, and it might be against what you think is best. And
Right.
you just got to shut up and do the job. You're getting paid for it, and to not have those chains on you and to be able to just make what you want to make is just satisfying.
Yeah. So now the only thing you're really not doing with this book is you're not doing the line work. You
Yeah.
have an artist, and I want to apologize because I'm probably going to butcher his name. Uh, but Ipula Sapul, is that close?
Epilose Paul.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you say it so much better. So what's that collaborative process look like?
Yeah. Um, it was tough at first because there's a bit of a language barrier between us. English
Hmm.
is his second language. So when I would hand him a script, um, I didn't really storyboard it out at first. I was because I'm used to not having that language barrier and I want to afford the line artist flexibility.
Right.
So um, I just hand him the script and be like, I kind of blocked out the panel layout and stuff like that, and just said, have at it, do your thing. I want you to feel that you have creative autonomy as well. But there was translation issues. So I was like, okay, not a problem. I'm an artist. I can draw. It's just not the thing that tickles my brain, and I'm
Right.
not as good of an artist at that level. but uh, but once I figured, okay, we'll just take it back to basics, and I storyboarded everything out. I sketched things out. I photo bashed things. I even used AI every now and again to set a scene with some generic characters and just said, hey, okay, here's the storyboard. This is what I'm going for. Let's go from there. And then once we started to communicate in that way, communicate visually, then things really took off and we were able to communicate really well.
That's awesome. It's also awesome that you found somebody that you can, even though there is that slight language barrier, but somebody that you can gel with and kind of has that same mind that you do. Um, but you mentioned like building panels just a
Mm-hmm.
second ago, and there is a very cinematic vibe to the storytelling of this book.
Yeah, thank you.
Are you influenced by film or TV when it comes to building panels and pacing?
Um, yeah, sure, sure. I mean, like I said before, the influences that I had even just for creating this was not just comic book based, but you know, Dogma, great movie, stuff like that. I've never wrote a script before. I've never built panel layouts before, so I looked back to like what's the purpose of a panel, what's the purpose of a page, and I just started thinking of it as a snapshot of a camera lens. And that in turn kind of reminded me more of film and TV rather than actual um, pictures on a page. So it was like, so if this was a scene in a movie or a television show, what's that key moment I'm trying to convey? And then let's put that on the page.
Speaking of scenes, was there a scene in Book Zero that kind of gave you a particularly hard time?
Um, a particularly hard time, I would say probably there's a page in there that is a flashback to when Sam was younger. And that one was tough because how do you portray something as being in the past without having to beat somebody over the head with it and say 15 years ago or
Right.
something like that? How do I use my skills as a colorist and an artist to portray that something is taking place in a different place or a different time? And figuring out how to convey that while not insulting the intelligence of the reader, I think was a little bit of a struggle, but I think it ended up turning out to be one of my favorite pages.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now on the flip side, was there one that maybe came out exactly the way you envisioned it, like the first time, just exactly there?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably the last page where Sam is standing in the rain on the street. And the street is empty, and you just see all the buildings. That one, it felt like it was just ripped straight from my brain, and it all just came together just as I imagined it.
That's
It just
awesome.
had that sense of just loneliness and something on the horizon.
That's awesome. Dude, I'm telling you, I can't wait to get my hands on more of this material. But you do have a 12-part saga
That's right.
ahead.
That's right.
So how tightly are you scripting this? Like, do you have it all mapped out already, or are you leaving a little bit of room to evolve?
Brother, it's done.
Oh, wow.
It's done. All 12 books, the entire story arc, panel breakdowns, page breakdowns is done. The only thing I haven't done is moved into storyboarding because I can't really do that until I'm ready to start hiring an artist and working that back and forth.
Right.
Which hopefully I get enough funding and support from everybody on Book Zero in order to make that happen.
Definitely, definitely. I'm hoping, the Kickstarter just went live last week, right?
We're in pre-campaign right now
Pre-campaign. Okay.
until the 25th. So
Yeah.
come up here in the next couple of weeks, then we're going to go live.
Awesome. Awesome. And we'll talk more about that here in a minute. Uh, but I want to flip over to some themes and some tones of this book. And it's not just an action ride. You're tackling themes of power, corruption, faith, and identity.
Yeah.
So what ideas are at the heart of Hellstones?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, the one adage that's always rang throughout, the one thing that I always kept on the forefront of my mind is the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So that's at its very core of doing the right thing, but maybe not seeing the forest for the trees and ended up doing harm in the long run, or maybe even the short term because you felt that you were doing the right thing in the moment. Um, aside from that, some of the core themes around it are like I like the action part of it. I mean, we're playing with mysticism and magic and hellstones. You got to have some great fight scenes and some magic throwing and all of that.
Of course.
So that's a big part of it as well. But you also have the the weight of questioning the trying to think of a way to say it. I'm trying not to reveal too much at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. No, I don't want you to reveal too much.
But you have the conflicts of these religious factions and these cults that are happening, and the community of followers that follow that cult, and what happens to those people and their belief structure when things are shaken on their end. And you have the dynamic of these mega corporations that control global economy and influence, and what happens when those people take things too far. What does the world look like when everything is a capitalist society and everything is being controlled by corporations?
Awesome. Yeah. I definitely got a little bit of that.
Yeah,
Uh
yeah,
so so the book is it's really dark, has a spiritual tone, almost gothic at times, right?
sure.
So how do you balance that with the high octane action that you have?
Oh, that's a good question. That was definitely a struggle and a balance throughout. Was making sure that I wasn't leaning too far on the action and then forgetting about the pacing of the more serious stuff. I went back and forth on that stuff a lot. It was really hard to do, to be quite honest. But it's how do I get to, because in reality, the story that I want to tell are more in these serious beats, right?
Right.
The action's in there because it's supporting the story and it's fun and it's flashy. And so as long as at the end of the day I got to tell the story that I wanted to tell, I laid that out first and then found when it was right to add all the rest of the stuff, which is quite frequently. But having a good support structure around you, having people that you trust, and having friends and family that are willing to preview your work and give you honest and genuine feedback helps a lot. You got to have people review this stuff and read it for you, so you know if you're hitting the tone or the beat that you want to hit, or that you're not having a continuity error or things like that. Because when you're the person that's in there creating it all, you have every draft iteration and every idea that you've ever had before you even reach the end product. So sometimes you get confused or you get lost in the weeds, or you're too close to the project to view it with fresh eyes. So it's definitely
Definitely.
definitely a balance. Definitely a struggle to maintain that balance.
Oh, I definitely understand that. So, uh, would you say that this story is ultimately a story of damnation or redemption?
Ultimately, I leave that up to the reader to decide.
I, I love that. I love that. I love that.
I, I,
Um,
I think I wanted to pose I think that's kind of the question that I try to pose at the end, really. Is exactly that. What was it all worth it? Where did we end up? Where did we start from? Yeah, I definitely leave it up to the reader to decide.
I love that. Let's talk little bit about your creative journey here.
Mhm.
So being fully independent, this is no joke, no joke at all. What has been the most rewarding part of your journey so far?
I'll show you. Getting the first proof copy in. That that is the absolute most rewarding. Getting to finally hold this thing and go, this is real. This is a thing that I did. I made this. This wouldn't exist without me having the wherewithal, the gumption, and maybe the stupidity to see it through. That's the most rewarding for sure.
All right, now on the flip side, what's been the biggest obstacle?
The biggest obstacle is the unknown. For me, I'm a person that suffers from high anxiety. So all the art's done, the story's done. I've got the proof in my hand. The hard work's been done. To me, that was the easy part. It was a grind. It was a grind to get it done. But now it's at that point of where I've just got to talk about it and hope enough people get interested in what I've created so I can share the rest of this story that I've already laid out and worked so hard on.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part for me is because in my high anxiety brain, I'm like, what if this? What if that? No one's going to like it. Blah, 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 blah. And I just have to sit here and stew. So for
Uh,
me, it's just, I just want to share it. I just want people to like it.
I, dude, I am such the same way. Like my brain right now, like during this, we're talking to you, I'm like, I'm already thinking about like the end product. Are people going to like it? Are people going to listen? Are people going to go to the GoFundMe page and help this guy out? You know, are they going to enjoy this as much as I have so far? So I mean, I'm right there with you with the high anxiety.
Yeah.
Um, but well, you've also created a children's book.
Yeah, that's true. You did a little homework. All right.
Yeah, I
You
believe it
did.
was called Mason's Marvelous Mind. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So did Mason's Marvelous Mind influence how you approached the visual storytelling in darker material like Hellstones?
Um, Not in that way. Not in that
Okay.
way. It what it did for me was it got me over how do I just reach out to people blindly and say, can I be on your podcast? Or do you want to partner on this? It taught me not only that and to just throw myself out there, but it also taught me how to copyright something. It taught me how to print something. It taught me all of those things that ultimately prepared me for this and being ready for this.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, Now, earlier you mentioned Spawn and Sandman, The Crow. Uh, Even I think you may have mentioned Blade. And you've kind of called out the fans of those books, uh, not in the typical sense of, "Hey, I'm calling you out," but more of, "Hey, I'm doing this book that's very similar in darkness."
Mm-hmm.
As these books. So how do you pull from that legacy while also making something entirely your own?
Yeah, I mean, I just love the dark. I love the macabre. I was raised on horror movies. So leaning into that stuff is almost just my comfort zone. So building a story around some of that stuff just felt right. And I'm not trying to liken myself to McFarlane or to Neil Gaiman or anyone else.
Right.
Those guys are masters of their craft. This is my first book, and don't get me wrong, I love it. I think it's great, but but yeah, I if you like those things, if you like the dark, the gritty, the mystic, the adult tones that make you think, then I really think you're gonna dig this.
Awesome. So what kind of reaction or emotion do you hope that your readers walk away with after reading just a single chapter of Hellstones?
Yeah. Well, let's even talk about just book zero. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. So I want people to feel something when they read this. I want them to be intrigued. I want them to feel curious and go, what's next? Like, what's happening? Like, I think I've done a good job of setting up. This is why we're here. This is what's happening, and then just leaving you with something. Something's going to go. It's going to happen. She's doing a thing, but what is it? But what is
Right,
it? You know,
right.
when people are reading this, I I like to think there's both some somber tones and some serious tones just in this short little prologue. I really think there's scenes where she's standing in the rain and she's standing on her balcony pondering that you I hope you feel the weight that she's feeling in those moments, and it feels a little somber, maybe even a little sad. And when she's having flashbacks to when she was younger, I hope you feel that moment as well. I hope you feel the warmth that she's feeling in those moments with her mentor. And I hope when she's sitting on the couch talking smack and a little disgusted about what she's seeing on the TV, I hope you feel that. And I hope it resonates and rings true to you as well. I don't know how many times I've seen an advertisement for like Monsanto corn or something. And I'm sitting there going, these sons of, and I think stuff like that is relatable. And I hope that people feel those moments and feel that they can relate to those moments.
Definitely, definitely. So I have to know, are are there any hidden details or Easter eggs in book zero that readers should keep an eye out for? You don't have to give the direct like detail or Easter egg, but are there things there that people need to keep an eye out for that maybe foreshadow more of the story?
Um, yes, there are,
Okay.
but I gotta leave it at that. It's got
No,
to
no,
be
no.
one of
That's
those things that
I,
down the
I
line and you come back to it and you're like,
yeah,
ah.
I didn't want you to give it away. It was just one of those very
Yeah.
simple yes or no questions.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and that's 100% intentional because a lot of the time with book zero or prologue books, they're kind of throwaways, in
Right.
my opinion, in my experience, to where yeah, you don't need it or anything like that, and but but I think it's fun that if you're one of those people that kind of got on early. And, or you have a copy of a prologue or something like that when you've read the series and you go back and you go, oh, you were setting up a thing there, and
Yes.
only I'm gonna know that because I got the prologue, I got the early thing. Everyone else started at book one. They're never gonna
Right.
know about this.
Yes. Yes. But speaking of book one, you've labeled book one Into the Fray. That's on the way. What can fans expect in terms of tone, action, and story escalation that, so book zero is there. So
Mhm.
so tone, action, and story escalation, for book one. What are we looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. So I really felt it was important that with book zero being a little bit somber, a little bit slower paced, to like as in there's no action. I don't think it's slow paced per se, but
Right.
there's no action, right? But it sets you up. You know there's gonna be something. So book zero, Into the Fray, the title alone tells you right off the bat there's something going down. And you don't just say into the fray unless there's going to be some combat or something.
Right, right.
So Into the Fray starts off in the jungles of Brazil, mercenaries chasing Sam through the forests of Brazil, or the Amazon rather, of Brazil, bullets flying, death, mayhem, panic, and pursuit. It's fantastic.
Oh, I can't wait to get my hands on this.
It jumps right in.
Awesome, awesome. Now I know we're just talking. This is we're doing a Kickstarter here to try to get people more interested and get people to help with the process of this book. But let's look down the line. Are you thinking Hellstones could appear in some other media, maybe, maybe animation, games, or even like a film?
I would love it. I would love it. Ultimately, once I finished this, my very first thought was like, I think this would translate really nicely to film, whether it be a movie or a short run TV show or something like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that also kind of goes with the next question of uh, what would your dream for Hellstones be? Just a completed saga, a cult following, or maybe you get the big N Netflix knocking on the door? What's that dream for Hellstones look like?
Oh man. Yeah, if it was the dream would absolutely be yeah, like Netflix knocking on the door, man, and going, "Hey, you've got enough of a following to really like what you've done here. What would that look like live action? That would be so sweet."
Yeah, yeah. All right. To close us out here, what advice would you give to another indie creator looking to be bold and tell an uncompromising story like this?
Absolutely. Do it. Just do it. But get a thick skin. Understand that feedback is a gift. Even when people are being negative or saying things that are harsh, just know that they're saying what they're saying because they have something to communicate to you. They might not be the best at communicating that. So you got to have a thick skin. You got to be receptive to feedback. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Lean on your peers. Do your research. Do due diligence. No one's going to teach you how to do these things. You got to go and seek that information. I'm big on not gatekeeping. Anybody can hit me up anytime, and I will share with you anything you would like to know about any process. And you just got to be willing to do the work, but do it. If you've got something to say, if you've got something inside of you, get it out there. Whether it's a one book, a web comic, whatever it might be, do it.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Frank, I was once told that the greatest gift you can give another human being is your time because it's the one thing you can never get back. And I greatly appreciate you sharing your time with me this evening.
Same to you, my man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So, I just have to say, Hellstones is seriously something special. I can't wait to see where this story goes. And I really hope that people check this out. I really do. And for anybody who does want to check this out, you go to www.pigmacast.com. Link will be in the description below. Also, you can follow Frank at on Instagram. I apologize. At W underscore Frank underscore W. Um, yes. Uh, so anything else you want to say?
Guys, I would really love your support on this. We can't make the next book happen without you, without your interest. I've put together what I believe is a really great story. And if you want to know more about it, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to you about anything any of you would like to know.
Awesome, awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for joining me tonight. The pleasure has truly been mine. I really enjoyed the promotional material that you sent me. I don't know if that I will talk here in a minute, but I really did enjoy the material you sent me. Thank you again. Everybody go check out Frank and over at Pigmacast. Check him out on Instagram. And until next time, I am Chip Hazard. He's Frank Walk. This has been all about Hellstones. Peace.